Tariq Melrose here, still recovering from the verbal gymnastics I just witnessed. A whole speech delivered with passion, conviction, and no factual foundation. That's talent. But this channel isn't about applause for empty rhetoric. It's about holding a mirror up to it. Subscribe and stay close, because if today's political acrobatics didn't impress you, the truth behind them certainly will.
When Republicans slash aid, enable dictators, and silence free speech, they don't defend democracy. They dismantle it, piece by piece. Stay tuned for this video as we expose GOP hypocrisy, defend human rights, and fight to protect real democracy.
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, you and I served together in Congress for 15 years. We didn't always agree, but I believe we shared some common values: a belief in defending democracy and human rights abroad, and honoring the Constitution at home. That's why I voted to confirm you. I believed you would stand up for those principles. You haven't. You've done the opposite. And you used to speak with conviction about the importance of foreign aid as a tool to advance American values and interests. Then you stood by while Elon Musk took a chainsaw to USAID and other assistance programs. That has left a staggering toll: broken trust with countries, openings for China and other adversaries, and countless preventable deaths of children and others. Take Sudan, for example. The freezing of U.S. humanitarian assistance forced the closure of nearly 80% of the emergency food kitchens there. 2 million famine-affected people were left without access to food. People died because of those actions: mothers, fathers, and children. Tons of emergency food that could have saved their lives was left rotting in warehouses because you and Elon Musk refused to let USAID do its job. Sudan is a country where, by the administration's own determination, a genocide is unfolding in Darfur. But here's where it goes from cruel to despicable. While cutting off food aid to Sudanese families living through an actual genocide, you're fast-tracking white South Africans for refugee status under a manufactured claim that they are the victims of genocide. You tried to block the admission of individuals who had already been approved to come here as refugees, while making bogus claims to justify granting such status to Afrikaners. You've made a mockery of our country's refugee process, turning it into a system of global apartheid, where political ideology and race, more than truth or need, matter. And while you've turned away from a genocide in Sudan and invented one in South Africa, you teamed up with President Trump to throw the Ukrainian people under the bus and have been played like a fiddle by Vladimir Putin. Of course, Donald Trump not only said he would end the war in Ukraine on day one, he also said he would end the war in Gaza on day one. And yet last week, you were all running around to Gulf states, giving away very sensitive American AI and chips technology, but doing nothing to end the war in Gaza and get the remaining hostages returned. You know that for 78 days, the Netanyahu government did not allow a scrap of food to enter Gaza to reach over 2 million civilians. 57 children have died from malnutrition so far, and more than 14,000 children are in imminent danger of dying of starvation. As Cindy McCain said last week, and I quote, "Families in Gaza are starving while the food they need is sitting at the border." That is a gross violation of both U.S. and international law. What did you do? Nothing. Not once did you publicly call upon the Netanyahu government to end the blockade. Fortunately, other countries spoke out, and now we see a tiny trickle going in. Where have you focused your energy instead, Mr. Secretary? Well, your first trip as Secretary of State was to El Salvador, not to promote democracy, but to cozy up to President Bukele, who calls himself the world's coolest dictator. The result was a cash for collusion deal to deprive people living in America of their constitutional rights to due process. The Supreme Court, in a 9-0 decision, instructed you to facilitate the return to the United States of Abrego Garcia, who the administration admitted was wrongfully deported to El Salvador. Your response? You've openly flouted judicial orders. When asked whether you have been in touch with El Salvador to return Abrego Garcia, you boasted, quote, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I would never tell? A judge. Clearly, you don't care about the Fifth Amendment right to due process, and you don't care about the First Amendment either, since you've been very busy snatching students off of college campuses for exercising their right to free speech. You dredged up a relic from the McCarthy era to claim that student protesters posed a threat to the foreign policy of the United States. Give me a break, Mr. Secretary. You know as well as I do this isn't about national security, it's about punishing free speech. And you know that in America, the government doesn't get to use its power to punish speech it doesn't like. Yet in March, you boasted about revoking student visas, saying, and I'm quoting, "We do it every day. Every time I find one of these lunatics, I take away their visa," unquote. Let's look at one of those lunatics, Mr. Secretary, Ms. Ozturk. Her crime was co-authoring an op-ed in her college paper critical of Tufts University's response to the war in Gaza. Your own department found zero links to terrorism, no anti-Semitic statements, but you still yanked her visa and shipped her off to detention in Louisiana. And the list goes on and on. The federal judge in the case of Mohsen Madawi, who was the Columbia student who was ambushed by federal agents at his citizenship appointment, said, and I quote, this is the judge, "Legal residents not charged with crimes or misconduct are being arrested and threatened with deportation for stating their views on the political issues of the day. Our nation has seen times like this before, especially during the Red Scare and Palmer raids. Like the McCarthy-era witch hunts of the 1950s, your campaign of fear and repression is eating away at foundational values of our democracy. Back then, it took one voice, Attorney Joseph Welch, to cut through the hysteria with the simple question that marked the beginning of the end of that shameful era. He asked Senator McCarthy, have you no sense of decency? And I would ask you the same, Secretary Rubio. But you have shown through your words and your actions what the answer is. And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
May I respond?
You may sit.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job, based on what I know.
Well, that's
about
just
your
a
record
flippant
and what you
statement,
stand
Mr.
for.
Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I didn't
Okay.
ask a
Senator,
question.
please let the Secretary have
I'd be
the floor.
happy to, but then I can respond to his
Your time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add.
Well-
Your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr. Chairman-
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. I don't know how that makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation.
I raised
don't regret
Sudan, Mr.
psychosocial support services.
I raised
USAID.
Sudan, Mr. Secretary,
Can I
not
respond, Mr.
Mozambique.
Chairman, or do I?
Senator, I'd ask you to suspend. You had 7 straight minutes of
I chose
railing
to
that.
use my time that way, Mr. Chairman. That's my right to
Please
use my
suspend,
time that way.
Secretary Rubio.
Well, I can go on. I mean, there's other things here. We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come,
Mr.
you're
Chairman,
going to see who you went to
look,
defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated
Senator,
comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court in the
Senator-
United States because
Well,
he hasn't done it under oath.
Here's another point, okay? There is a division in our government between the federal branch and the judicial branch. No judge in the judicial branch cannot tell me or the president how to conduct foreign policy. No judge can tell me how I have to outreach to a foreign partner or what I need to say to them. And if I do reach to that foreign partner and talk to them, I am under no obligation to share that with the judiciary branch. Just like a judge cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister of Russia, they cannot order me to negotiate with a foreign minister or the president of El Salvador. And if I did negotiate with them, which we have responded to them, and we've told them we've had communications with the president of El Salvador, I am under no obligation under our division of powers in this country and to share with the judicial branch how I conduct the diplomacy of the United States. It would actually be counterproductive. If I started sharing with courts, or frankly, with the media, My conversations with foreign leaders and all of their details, no foreign leader would talk to me again, and we would break trust with them. So I have complied with every court order. What I won't comply with is an order to disclose what I'm saying and what we're talking about with a foreign leader, because then they won't talk to me. Diplomacy doesn't work that way. About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas, and it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms. Ostork did?
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she
And if you
did?
do
Come
that-
on, Mr. Secretary.
And every single
You're
one of
just
these
blowing
cases, the
smoke
factors
here
are
now.
different.
Senator-
The bottom line is, if you're
Senator,
coming here to
we've-
stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you
Does
have
the
a
First
visa
Amendment
and we find
apply
you,
to
we'll
people
revoke
living
it.
in the United
And
States?
we're going to do more. There are more coming. We're going to continue to revoke the visas of people who are here as guests and are disrupting our higher education facilities. People are paying money. These kids pay money to go to school, and they have to walk through
Writing
a bunch
an
of
op-ed
lunatics
to the
who are
tough
here on
newspapers
student visas.
disrupting the
Simple
foreign
as
policy
that.
of the United
I want to
States.
do more. I hope we can
That's
find more of these people.
pathetic, Mr.
In fact, the other
Secretary.
day, some guys led a riot. I forgot what university it was, and I asked, please, can you find the arrest records of all the people that were arrested at that riot at that campus? Because if any of them have a visa, we're going to revoke
I
it.
feel so much safer
All right,
when you
let's,
lock up people like Ms. Ostork, Mr. Secretary.
We've had enough time on the subject. Thank you very much. And
What we saw in the Senate hearing was a devastating takedown of Republican hypocrisy and cruelty. Senator Van Hollen laid out a record of betrayal, negligence, and authoritarian instincts. Secretary Rubio's arrogance only confirmed how hollow the GOP's moral compass has become. Starving children in Sudan is not a policy choice. It is a moral failure. The freezing of U.S. humanitarian aid forced 80% of food kitchens to shut down. 2 million people lost access to food. Families died while tons of aid rotted in warehouses. Rubio and his Republican allies called it efficiency. The world calls it barbaric. Republicans want us to believe they stand for life and family. Nothing about letting children starve reflects family values. Nothing about watching genocide unfold while blocking aid reflects moral leadership. They abandoned Sudan while claiming to defend human rights. Instead of helping desperate families, Rubio's State Department invented a genocide in South Africa to fast-track white refugees. Real genocide in Darfur was ignored, while a fake crisis was manufactured for Afrikaners. Refugees already approved for admission were blocked, while conservatives abroad were welcomed. This is not immigration policy. This is racial hierarchy dressed up as diplomacy. Republicans talk about merit-based immigration, but their actions scream race-based favoritism. White refugees get a golden ticket. Black and brown families are denied safety. This is apartheid thinking exported through America's refugee system. It is indefensible. Ukraine's fight against Russia is about democracy versus authoritarianism. Rubio and Trump undermined Ukraine while handing Putin a gift. Trump called Putin a genius. Rubio fell in line. Instead of defending allies, the GOP sold out freedom fighters. America's credibility is weakened, and authoritarian leaders rejoice. Democrats stand with Ukraine because democracy matters. Republicans bow to Trump's orders and play Putin's game. That is not patriotism. That is betrayal. The blockade of Gaza left millions starving. 57 children already dead from malnutrition. Thousands more at risk of starvation. Food sat at the border. Cindy McCain called it what it was. Families starving while supplies were within reach. Rubio did nothing. He did not once call for the blockade to end. Silence while children die is complicity. Republicans scream pro-life, but say nothing when children waste away. They brand themselves defenders of morality, yet they ignore gross violations of international law. Their silence is louder than their slogans. Instead of standing for democracy, Rubio cozied up to a self-described dictator in El Salvador. His first trip as Secretary of State was not to Democratic allies, but to a strongman. A cash-for-collusion deal stripped constitutional rights from people wrongfully deported. The Supreme Court ruled 9-0 against him. Rubio bragged about ignoring judicial orders. He mocked judges. That is authoritarian contempt for the Constitution. The First and Fifth Amendments mean nothing to a man who uses government power to silence dissent. Rubio turned student visas into weapons. He bragged about revoking visas daily. He called students lunatics. Their crime was free speech. One co-authored an op-ed critical of Gaza policy. Another was ambushed by federal agents while applying for citizenship. Judges condemned these actions as McCarthyism reborn. Rubio laughed. The Red Scare, Palmer raids, McCarthy witch hunts, history repeating itself in real time. Punishing students for speech is not national security. It is repression. Deporting residents for peaceful protest is not order. It is authoritarian punishment. Rubio dismissed Van Hollen's regret for confirming him as evidence of success. He mocked international aid, mocked psychosocial programs, mocked democracy itself. He waved around lists of wasteful spending to distract from the truth. Starving children, silenced students, betrayed allies. Republicans call themselves defenders of free speech while silencing dissent. They call themselves defenders of law while mocking judicial authority. They call themselves defenders of democracy while cozying up to dictators. They call themselves defenders of life while letting children starve. The pattern is clear: cruelty as policy, division as strategy, authoritarianism as ideology. Democrats defend democracy. Democrats feed children instead of letting them die. Democrats stand with Ukraine. Democrats push for accountability and free speech. Democrats uphold the Constitution. Republicans abuse power. Republicans betray allies. Republicans silence students. Republicans weaken the Constitution. Republicans enable dictators. Republicans follow Trump. The GOP is not a party of values. It is a movement of cruelty, hypocrisy, and submission to authoritarian power. Every accusation they throw at Democrats is projection of their own corruption. The American people see the truth. They see starving families ignored abroad. They see students punished at home. They see allies betrayed for Putin's approval. They see silence while children in Gaza waste away. They see mockery of democracy while strong men are embraced. This is not strength. This is cowardice. This is not patriotism. This is betrayal. This is not democracy. This is authoritarian decay. The Senate hearing exposed the truth. Republicans are not victims. They are perpetrators. They are the silencers, the punishers, the betrayers of American values. Democrats are the defenders of democracy, free speech, and human rights. That is the choice before us. This has been Tarek Melrose Vlogs. We cut through the noise, expose the lies, and defend democracy every single time. If you're tired of Republican cruelty, if you believe in truth over propaganda, and if you want to stand with those fighting for democracy, hit that subscribe button, share this video, and join us. Together, we will protect freedom, defend justice, and hold the GOP accountable.